The digital world is changing rapidly, and customers' expectations of technology are changing with it. IT has never been more important or more complex. So how do you adapt to the pace of digital transformation despite shrinking budgets? Business as usual is no longer enough. The answer is artificial intelligence. Mist, a Juniper company, is using AI to revolutionize IT. While other vendors are clinging to the past and bolting AI on top of legacy platforms, we're leading the way into the future with the industry's first AI-powered network. Combined with microservices cloud architecture, Mist delivers automation and insight that transforms enterprise networks. Whether it's retail, healthcare, higher education, or any other enterprise, technology powered by AI is bringing simplicity to IT administrators and network users every day. Save time and money with automated workflows, simple root cause analysis, an AI-driven virtual network assistant, and actionable insights. Maximize user experience with network services that are predictable, reliable, secure, and most importantly, tailored to individual needs. To meet modern demands, the new network requires AI-driven automation and insight. This is the AI-driven enterprise. This is Mist.
All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to our sixth AI in Action. Actually, it was the first four were Mist Live. Right now, we rebranded Mist Live into AI in Action, Artificial Intelligence in Action. My name is Jan van der Laar, and together with Gaby Kroet, my partner and friend in crime, we will host this event. Gaby, I know you're in Dubai. How are things in Dubai?
Hi, Jan. Life is awesome. It's really great. Thank you for that. Unfortunately, I cannot join you live in the studio in Brussels, but here in Dubai, the sun is setting, and we have a great pace here in the market. So great to be here and great to be at this event. Thank you, Jan.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Gaby, and thank you for sharing, making or giving our awareness in the world. We have a really nice agenda put together for you, and we constantly want to, keep it dynamic and interactive. So today, after the introduction, we have what is our AI-driven enterprise. After that, we have a speaker coming from Forrester. I will introduce those people in a moment. Really talking about what is the validity of a platform, why is a platform so important, and how could it save money. Then we have a little bit of fun factor. We're going to have a magic act for about 10 minutes as a break. Then we have a consultant coming in, an external consultant that is going to talk about Wi-Fi design and why artificial intelligence matter. Then we have a speaker from the Catholic University of Leuven that is recently adopting to our technology. It's a young customer, but nevertheless, I wanted to share their experience on our network and how it went. And then we're going to have a little quiz, a close-up and a quiz, a Kahoots quiz. We're going to give away some really cool presents. For the top three, we have some hoodies, if I am not mistaken. And for the winner, we are going to hand out a Juniper Mist access point. And then as a closing, the magician is going to teach us all a trick. And if it's all well, you should have had an email where you need to have sort of a toilet paper roll and a magic wand of your choice to learn this trick. Who we have on the call today is my colleague and also in the meanwhile a good friend of mine, Tom Wilburn. Thank you. Tom Wilburn, he's our VP of Worldwide Sales. If all is well, Tom is going to be on video. We will introduce him in a moment or bring him on the screen in a moment. We have Raymond Hendricks, our Wi-Fi consultant. Then we're going to have Andre Kindness. He is so kind to bring us, and I'm pretty sure he's tired of this joke, as a principal engineer from Forrester. Herman Moens, he is the IT manager from the Catholic University of Leuven. And then the magician is Martin Rees. Martin, he's also been on Britain's Got Talent. And the day he did a trick for us, it was already mind-blowing. Tom, if all is well, you should be on the call. Hey, Tom, good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning, Jan. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, Tom. My heart rate raises at 125 beats per second at the moment, but all well. And thank you very much, because I understand that you woke up really early this morning. I know you live in Boston. We were making these arrangements with the assumption that it was 9 a.m. for you, but if I'm not mistaken, it's 6 a.m. in the morning.
It is. It's 12 hours different than my friend Gaby. The sun is not yet up here.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. And by the way, folks, questions and answers, please fill them out in the chat. If we cannot answer them today, we will make sure that they will be answered. So do feel free to post those on the chat. Tom, if all is well, I think you're going to present to us what is the AI-driven enterprise. So take it away.
Okay, fantastic. Jan, let me share my screen here and offer the audience some context about what we're going to talk about here today. Is it sharing properly?
Yes, it is.
So what I'd like to speak about is just our background and how we came to this vision for the network for the next decade and what experience first networking means. Let's see. There we go. And as I want to set expectations for the audience, particularly anyone that's joining and hearing about MIST for the first time. At a very high level, the network for the next decade will do three things for you that you can't get from networks today. The first thing is using sophisticated automation, and it's sophisticated because it's easy to use. If you've deployed the network architecture that we've delivered for the last 20 years as an industry, you'll find this rapidly easily adopted by you and your team. And what it will allow is the fastest deployment of any network you've ever done. I say this because the world's largest company is deploying 3,000 wireless access points every night with this technology. And they're so delighted with it, they've actually produced a video that's out on YouTube that talks about this. For those of you that might be upgrading Cisco networks, you'll find that we're even compatible with the brackets that you use today. So literally, you can install the access point, plug in the cable, and 17 seconds later, you'll be delivering service with all of your security and other parameters set correctly. The benefit that our customers are getting from this are twofold. One is they're able to deploy rapidly at lower expense. But secondly, and just as important, we eliminate errors. We eliminate mistakes that are made. So the deployments go fast and they work well. The second thing that we'll do is dramatically change the user experience for both your IT organization and the customers you support by almost eliminating service tickets from the network. Now, that sounds like a bold claim. And if you're a bit skeptical, thank you. It shows that you're paying attention. But we're going to talk about how we eliminate up to 90% of all trouble tickets from the network. And then if there are trouble tickets, how we use AI to get to the root cause quickly and solve the problem much faster than you could otherwise. And then the third thing is this network is about more than just providing connectivity. We can change the way your users experience the network. So if you're a retailer and you want to personalize the shopping experience while the shopper is in the store, some people call that creating an Amazon-like experience in the store We can do that with engagement and location services. If you're a university and you want to provide wayfinding services or do attendance automatically in a classroom, we can do that. And this technology, I know I've personally been talking about this across different companies for more than a decade. What's different now is it's easy to implement. We use machine learning and AI to automatically calibrate the network for location services, and we don't require an overlay network of battery-operated beacons or other technology to implement this. It's all built in. So with that said, let me tell you how we got here and what we're trying to do. I want to first look through the eyes of one of the other industry's leading consultants here, the Gartner Group, and I'll go back 4 years. In 2018, Juniper was a powerhouse in Ethernet switching, and Mist was a startup in the wireless LAN industry. And Gartner had us both in the wrong quadrants, the bottom side of the Magic Quadrant. And then 3 years ago, Juniper acquired Mist and completed its portfolio with wireless technology, but most importantly, began the transformation to an AI-driven network. And at that point, Gartner noticed that and said, well, that looks a little more interesting, and moved us up and to the right. And then last year, something fairly startling happened. Gartner moved us up into the leaders quadrant, almost to the very top, acknowledging the very rapid progress the company had made, not only in integrating technologies, but in leading the industry, with three of the four largest companies in the world standardizing not just on Mist Wireless, but on Juniper switching and Mist Wireless under a common umbrella. And then this year, the Magic Quadrant has come out and not just had us in the leaders quadrant, but had us in the highest position to the right and to the top of the industry. Now, I believe that Gartner did this because of the reception that our customers have had to this technology. They are the most delighted of any customer base I've experienced in my career and have the highest 5-star ratings in the industry. So how do we get that? Why are customers so happy with this technology? I will tell you, like everything else, this happens because you have a problem to solve. And myself and the team at Mist, 7 years ago, we were leading Cisco's global switching, routing, and wireless business. Our two founders, Bob Friday was the CTO for the wireless business at Cisco. Sujay Hajila was the senior vice president of Cisco's enterprise business. And if you go back to the 2014 timeframe, you'll remember that Cisco acquired a company called Meraki in December of 2012. We did that acquisition. And our commitment to Cisco at the time was to integrate that technology so that we wouldn't end up with two solutions that customers had to choose from. One is our legacy controller architecture that was very sophisticated and could run the largest networks in the world. And the other was the newly acquired Meraki, which was optimized for easy deployment and really designed for small and medium businesses that had no IT organization. And our goal at Cisco was to integrate the two. And the way the story turns out is by the summer of 2014, our CTO, Bob Friday, came back and said, this really isn't possible. We have a controller architecture that today at least is over 20 years old. We had a cloud architecture at the time that was already 7 years old. They were designed for two different types of customers, and both businesses required quite a bit of care and feeding and maintenance. And he said it just wasn't possible to smush the two together and get the result you wanted. He said it would take a clean sheet of paper. I'd start with a fresh architecture that incorporated the best of both technologies. Now, what's interesting is Bob then said, I don't think I could do this inside a large company. I'm going to have to move fast. And he founded Mist in the summer of 2014. And his vision was not just to solve that problem of bringing together easy to deploy with sophisticated networking capabilities. He also wanted to use AI to solve a problem that no one else has yet solved in the industry. And it's very simple. If I ask you or any of your users, how do you know if somebody on your network is having a bad experience? Your answer and your customer's answer will be the same. You will say, well, I have to wait for somebody to call and complain. And then I have to take my networking team, which is never as big as I want, and we have to chase that problem, react to it, and try to figure out why. And that takes time and effort away from other things that we would like to do. And it's very reactive. Bob wanted to use AI to solve that problem as well. Now, what stunned us was in the fall of 2014, Sujay, who was running the enterprise business at Cisco, he left to join Bob. And then eventually Cisco funded the company as well as Google on this vision of proactive AI-driven networking. So now here we are over 7 years later, and the largest companies in the world have moved. And I will include some of the experiences that they've had with the network. 3 years ago, before Juniper acquired Mist, United Parcel Service, the largest logistics provider in the world, who runs their business on Wi-Fi, decided to select this startup to improve the wireless experience. Today, the architect says that we have reduced the time it takes to close a wireless trouble ticket from an average of 48 hours to less than 2 hours, a 96% reduction in MTTR. How do we do that? We eliminate that entire reactive problem-solving cycle. The world's largest company, Walmart, is so pleased with how rapidly they can deploy this. They've actually produced a series of YouTube videos that talk about their experience. And this is a technology that I assure everyone on this call that not only can you adopt quickly, but once you do, you will never want to go back to command line interfaces that you've had to learn to try to get the systems to do what you want. It is about the future and automation. The Gap is one of the world's largest retailers with 3,700 stores around the world. What they described was what most of our customers say, is that what AI did for them was like turning the lights on in the room. They could now see what was happening in the stores that was previously causing store operations to be so unhappy. And we not only allowed them to figure out why users in the store were unhappy, but we eliminated 85% of all the calls that they needed to go out to a store to find out what a problem was. Think about the time and the money savings that that had. So what I want you to realize with just these three stories is these are not incremental changes. If you're used to an Aruba network today, if you're used to a Cisco network today or a Meraki network, and you don't want to change to get something that's 5% better, candidly, I agree with you. I don't think I would either. What we're talking about is a fundamentally different experience, 90% reduction in trouble calls. And now I want you to hear from the CIO of ServiceNow. We replaced the Cisco network that was operating ServiceNow globally. And let you hear from the CIO of ServiceNow himself. He challenged us as a company to use AI in what he described as a race to zero. He said, if AI is so good, why can't you completely eliminate trouble tickets? Why can't the system know somebody is unhappy before they have time to complain and fix the problem? Why isn't that possible? And we're on a journey with ServiceNow. And by the way, the integration that ServiceNow has completed of the Mist and Juniper technology into the platform is available to all ServiceNow customers around the world if you're using that platform. Here's Chris Beatty, the CIO of ServiceNow.
We use, for our 17,000 employees, we use Juniper's wireless products the Mist product, set of products to make sure that we are delivering a stellar experience to our employees. They really can work from anywhere. It might be in an office, could be in a collaboration space, and could be at home. But the whole point being, it's a seamless experience, and the employee never has to think about where they are. They know they're always going to get always on reliant service. And for the few times that, there are issues, really a drive to proactively helping IT organizations proactively resolve those issues so an employee never has to think about it. And we partnered with Juniper with their own AI technology. You were talking earlier about AI, and we've driven a 90% reduction in the number of issues reported by employees on wireless. And think about that. Like, they're not wasting time thinking about the network, thinking about, is a wireless going to scale or perform? They're doing what we want them to do, which is further the strategic objectives of ServiceNow.
So I ask you to think for just a second, particularly if you're skeptical, and most of our customers at this point are skeptical about whether a new technology really works that well. What would it mean to your organization and to your customers if you eliminated 90% of trouble tickets like ServiceNow has? And by the way, Chris's VP of Network Infrastructure tells us we're now at 97% elimination of trouble tickets. It's an ongoing cause. So what is it that the world's largest companies are experiencing? What is it that we want you to experience? And we're now active in the largest hospitals, the largest universities, and the largest companies. And our rationale was the bigger the company, the more pain they have. But our technology works in the smallest companies. It's actually easier to deploy than Meraki because it provides support for day 2 operations, not just a simple deployment experience. So there are 4 things that you'll hear about today. One is we're constantly tracking the user experience in real time. That is any device with a Wi-Fi chipset, any device with an Ethernet chipset. We are monitoring every device every minute in real time. If we see anything that causes a bad experience, your DHCP server fails to respond, your DNS doesn't resolve, the coverage in that area of the building is poor, we will signal asynchronously to our cloud, and our AI technology will take over and try to do what a human being would do if they were awake 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and had a sniffer built into every access point around the globe. So there's no more, well, call us back if that happens again and we'll try to catch it. It proactively starts the root cause analysis automatically. We're 7 years in with the largest data science team in the networking industry, and the algorithms are quite good. This is how we reduced the MTTR at UPS. This is how we eliminated the trouble tickets at ServiceNow. We have eliminated the controller without eliminating the controller capabilities. We are running the largest networks in the world, and we deliver these capabilities with a microservices cloud architecture. It is GDPR compliant. We're operating throughout Europe. We have a cloud instance in Europe. And what this allows us to do is to constantly improve the network without taking it down. It's the experience that Netflix enjoyed. We replaced a very large Aruba network, and they said this same architecture is how they constantly improve your streaming experience in the home without taking down the capability. And that's what we do for networks. So we increase reliability, we enhance security. The Log4j exploit that just came out, all Juniper Mist customers around the world were remediated within 48 hours. It's automatic, it's built in, it's what you should expect. And the last thing is we built in advanced Bluetooth location capabilities. We have a hardware version that includes something called virtual BLE, and it allows us to precisely locate people and assets and provide services from the network without an overlay, without additional equipment. And then the last thing, the benefit of coming late to the party, is we're not converting an older system and trying to open it up with APIs. Every networking technology now talks about having some API capabilities. 100% of everything we do is available through our API. We actually designed the dashboard you're going to see today using the API. So it's 100% open system. And I will close on this thought. We started this journey 7 years ago as a startup company in wireless, trying to solve the mysterious problems in Wi-Fi and to get to root cause quickly. 2.5 years, almost 3 years ago now, we incorporated Juniper's entire Ethernet switching family into this architecture. It is the most advanced wired and wireless capability on the market, and the Juniper switching is fully integrated. As I mentioned before, 3 of the 4 largest companies in the world started with Mist Wireless, and then eventually we replaced their Cisco or HP switches simply because the solution was better. We are fully compatible with any switch that you choose to operate, but the integrated solution is that much better. And then last but not least, a little over a year ago, one of the world's largest companies asked us to consider a second generation SD-WAN technology that they had standardized on. This was a small startup company called 128 Technologies. They had rolled out 10,000 pharmacies on an SD-WAN. They had rejected Juniper's first generation, we called it CSO. They had rejected VeloCloud, Viptela, Versa, because they all required the customer to build a complex set of tunnels to encapsulate traffic that for the most part was already encrypted. And that first generation technology added latency. It consumed as much as 70% of the network bandwidth, and it was very hard to manage. So this Fortune 3 company went to a startup called 128, and they asked us, since we had provided the wired and wireless network in all 10,000 locations, they asked us to integrate that technology into our cloud and AI. The long story short is, the more we looked at this startup, we realized that CVS was right, and we acquired the company. So now we have the world's only AI-driven, end-to-end, full-stack architecture where we have integrated 128 into our cloud offering and our AI. And what it allows us to do is not just understand why somebody's Wi-Fi sucks, but to understand at a session level the experience of any client from the client device all the way to the cloud application or data center. We call it session smart, cloud enabled, and AI driven, end-to-end full stack. So with that, Jan and Gaby, I'm going to turn the floor back to you. And I want to thank our audience for joining us this morning. I hope that brief overview was helpful to you as you set through the day and hear from other speakers.
Yeah. Hey, Tom, thank you so much. And when I listen to this, and of course, I am on the front line of all what we do. But if you look into how manufacturing is automated, and they can put their resources to other means, it seems like with our AI-driven enterprise, with that artificial intelligence, the speed we do things, it seems like if you have a digitization plan, we can speed that up. We can speed it up with less errors. And it seems like all these automated workers in a factory, we distribute throughout the network. Is that a true statement?
Jan, it's absolutely true. I didn't mention a company called Denso. It is one of the largest automobile parts manufacturers in the world. It's actually owned in part by Toyota. And they've implemented manufacturing 4.0. And as a part of that, they've deployed the technology that I just talked about in their manufacturing plants. These are very difficult RF environments because there are huge stacks of parts as they build them. And this company not only makes the parts in your car, but they make the machines that make the parts in your car. And they wanted to be able to track the health of these machines and automatically do inventory of assets in the factory. And the system was allowed them to do that. So I think they were first impressed with how much better it worked. And what I want the audience to think about is when we designed the controller architecture, 20 years ago now, we invented something called radio resource management. Aruba had a version called adaptive radio resource management. And that was intelligence in the controller intended to adapt the RF in real time to conditions. What we've done now is gone far beyond the capabilities of a controller with its limited storage and memory capabilities, and used AI to do a better radio resource management algorithm. And it really works in these factory environments that are very difficult.
So we introduce actually retireless IT staff into your network, so to speak. Tom, thank you so much. But I also wanted to give away to the audience, and we have these big names like CVS, Walmart, and so on. Truth be said, we have a lot of customers in Europe, and I know when it works for big companies, it also works for smaller organizations. If we look in Belgium, we have Vervaken, which is a smaller logistical company. If we look we have in the Netherlands television stations where we have only a couple of hundred APs. Even in my own house, and I'm pretty sure, Tom, in your house where you have your APs, it is really phenomenal how you can operate your network. If there is an issue, it's so easy to troubleshoot. And unless Gaby, I don't know if Gaby is still there. If you want to ask something to Tom, if that is all good, Tom, thank you so much. I wanted to go then to the demo because for me, seeing is believing. That's my mantra. That is where I always start in every meeting that I do. So without further ado, Tom, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm not sure if you're going to go back to bed, but have a wonderful time in California, and we'll speak soon, I guess.
Thank you, Jan, and thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I hope I've made you very skeptical at the beginning, and that you will lean in and question all of our speakers about whether we can deliver on the promises I just made. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. All right, folks. So as we said, seeing is believing. And I'm going to walk with you through a demo on this platform. Because at the end of the day, what Tom said, it truly is what we do. So let me just make a little bit bigger that it's easier on the eyes of people. What we do is really take all these statistics from connected clients, from connected devices, and everything into our cloud. And the pinnacle of everything we do is instead of you opening support tickets with us, we will open support tickets with you. And I will show you in a moment how we do this. And also, don't hesitate with opening support tickets with us, because you open a support ticket with us, we only are going to improve our AI engine, because this is what we do. When you open a support ticket, we will help you, of course, but we also are going to give this information to our data science team, and the data science team is then going to analyze how could we overcome that you had to open this ticket with us. Because at the end of the day, as what Tom said, it's the road to zero support tickets. And here is the pinnacle of it. We have Marvis. Tom spoke to you about Marvis. When you see here, and let me just make it a little bit smaller. Marvis Actions, this here is your single pane of glass. And again, seeing is believing. Please, at the end of this call, contact us, contact our partners, contact whoever, and give us your worst site, and we will install the system on your site, and we will detect for you what is going good or bad in your network. And this is one of those elements. In our live network, this is our network in Cupertino from the Mist office. We have 30 actions that we need to do. And it goes from clients. It seems like we have no client issue. However, there is a layer 1 issue. This is an issue we have with the AP connecting to the network. And we see there is one bad cable on this AP. And we will tell you We will tell you here, this is this AP, it's on the site live demo, and it's on this port of this switch that it actually is failing. And in this scenario, it is a Juniper switch. This could be any other switch in the industry that is there. We can detect this. We have 13 connectivity issues. And connectivity for us is not just connecting to an access point. Yeah, it is the whole thing. We see here there are 4 authentication failures. There are 3 DHCP failures. There are 3 ARP failures. This is also important to know because when an ARP request is not passing through, yeah, it has an effect on the user experience. Yeah, because for us, that router could be up that is serving that ARP request. The router could be up, but it's not coming completely through, or it is another service route, or maybe something else that is failing. You need to get these elements happening. DNS failure. I was last week in a proof of concept with a company in South America where the primary DNS server was not responding to DNS requests of their mobile payment terminals. They were not aware of this. They told me, Jan, everything is fine. There's nothing special in your system. I said, do you know that your primary DNS server is not serving these clients? It is your secondary DNS server that is actually responding to this. So this means if your secondary or your backup DNS server, if that fails, you're going to have a huge issue serving those mobile payment terminals and your clients. That was an eye-opening for them. The same thing on access points. We can see what access points are offline. We will do a health check of these APs. As you can see here, there are some health check fails. We will tell you what APs you should upgrade. And we also will tell you what APs you need to replace. You don't have to prove to us that an AP is bad. You don't have to prove to us that you checked the cable, that you did the firmware upgrade, that you did an RF scan, all these things. With our AI engine, we exactly know what is wrong with that AP. You just need to give us your shipping address where we need to ship this AP to, and we will do it for you. That is that. The same thing as, if your networks are non-compliant, if there are coverage holes, or if there is somewhere in your network insufficient capacity. We have many customers, small or large, it doesn't matter, where you do a site survey, then you install the network, and they require or they request to do an on-site validation of that survey. That is costing a lot of time and money. Yeah, and in a green environment, it is not always that efficient to travel around and to burn fossil fuels to get those visits, plus also the time you spend in verifying this, maybe with a sidekick next to you or some other tools to analyze this. We will tell you where it is going wrong. We will tell you where you have a coverage hole. We will tell you where there is not sufficient capacity. And we extend that. We extend that also to switches. When there are missing VLANs on a switch, bad cables on a switch, negotiation mismatches, loop detections, you name it, we will tell you exactly where it is, what is going wrong. Yeah? So let me just here select that missing VLAN. And we're not going look into every configuration of your switches. We're not doing this. This is all done through our decision trees in our AI engine that we can detect this. And actually, we will tell you exactly this AP on that port is having these VLANs missing. Yeah? Imagine, Tom was talking about Walmart. If you have this on a global scale, how would you find this out? And forget about the global scale. I have a company in Finland that actually was using DNA to deploy, Cisco DNA to deploy their templates to their switches, and we detected that there was a missing VLAN on a specific switch. And they said, Jan, this cannot be true. We have a template. This is all done automatically. And we asked them, please, do the check. And guess what? We detected a wrong configuration on a Cisco switch. How cool is this? And we even go up the stack to gateways, where also we're going to look into performance, cables, uplinks, MTUs, and so on, mismatches. If that is the case, we really go through that full stack. And the way we do this is by gathering all these types of information. And there was a question earlier from TJ. It asked, how long do you keep data? Well, we keep the data as long as 7 days in our network, as you can see here. This is from today, but we can go back 7 days. If there is a longer period required, I think something else is happening because support should be almost instant. You don't have to go back 3-4 months or 2-3 weeks back in time. If something is repetitive, we will catch it and we will let you know. What we see here on the screen is actually the pinnacle of all the information we gather. And just to show you a couple of examples on how deep we can analyze, instead of doing baselines, we are going to ask you to set up what are you expecting from the network, expecting in time to connect, expecting in coverage, expecting in roaming times, because that is what a network should feel like. And then once we understand this, everything we're going to measure against that expectation. So a time to connect is not only the time to connect to an AP, it's the association. It's the authorization, it's the internet services, it's the DHCP, it's the association, in successful connects. It's also their DHCP ARP requests, DNS requests. How responsive are these? Yeah, so we can actually then go here, in a time to connect, we can then actually see over time how long it will take for an average client to connect end-to-end. In this scenario, 2.7 seconds. We can see how it is distributed over a period of time, and if there are configuration changes, we can see how it is distributed in terms of devices, access points, and here is where it really is shining. We can go from a high-level view to a site-level view to a client-level view, where I can immediately see here that a failure rate of 18% with an impact of 30% of the performance, or 88% here with an impact of 22% of the performance, or the overall impact of the failures. And then we can select that device, and we will give to your first-line help desk already a lot of contextual information about what is now going good or bad on this client. And that is not even, we don't even stop there. We go to insights. And in insights, we can actually see, what is now actually happening. Yeah? And we have here a total of good events, neutral events, and bad events, where on the bad events, I actually can see here there were some DHCP denied, some authorization issues. So when we click now on a DHCP denied, we see already a lot of information about this connection. I can see what the server IP address is. I can see here if I'm in a good environment or not, DHCP latency, but also here, it was actually, the client was requesting a 000 IP address. So now, if you have to go to the manufacturer to rewrite that stack of that adapter, they're gonna ask for log files and sniffer traces. Well, guess what? We have for you here the sniffer trace ready for you to download and send it to that vendor that they can do their analysis and immediately see what is actually going wrong with that client. And see that it's just the amount of packets you need. I want to close it up because we're running a little bit close on time, I think. I'm going to round it up because this is on the wireless side. We do that same thing for the wired infrastructure. On the wired infrastructure, we're going to look into how is your throughput doing? How are your connections doing? You see here we have an authentication failure of 100%, and that is why that successful connects are impacted. And we're going to look into the switch health. And for switches, we really, from all the ports you have in your infrastructure, the EX switches in your infrastructure, we're going to monitor if there are congestions on the uplink, congestions in general, storm controls, network issues, and even anomalies. Imagine all the ports where you have an agent watching on each port and giving you feedback on how that is doing. And the same thing we do for routers. And in routers, we also are going to specifically monitor some applications. If we go into here, our settings, we can there exactly tell these applications I want to have under a magnifier glass to really have a closer look on this, on how that is performing. So as Tom said, It's wireless, wired, and WAN that we are watching for you. And there is a lot more things we have to share with you and we have to talk about. So please, feel free to reach out to partners, to our team, to my team, to the Juniper team, if you want to have a deep dive demo on this, and even if you want to try it out into your network, that would be awesome. I don't think there are any questions on the chat at the moment, as far as I know. So without further ado, if all is well, Andre is on the call. Andre, welcome.
Thank you, Jan.
Hello,
Thank you very much.
Hello, Andre. That looks like a very professional studio you're in. That's amazing.
You don't want to see what's behind the curtains. So.
Yeah, you should see what here is behind this curtain. So Andre, welcome to our missed or not missed live. I still need to get used to the new title, to our AI in Action event. So Andre, could you tell something about what you're doing in Forrester and so on, and then what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, sure. So thank you very much for inviting me, and I appreciate the Juniper team giving me a chance to kind of share our research and talk about what we've been working on at Forrester Research. So just to give you a little background on myself, you're probably wondering why the team decided to choose me over, as Tom presented, versus Gartner. I think I like to kind of spend the next 20 minutes talking to you about some of the research as I spoke about earlier, and in the sense of how's taking a combination of artificial intelligence and data science tools going to help simplify and improve kind of the network operations. And what I mean by that is kind of service level assurance, event correlation, root cause identification, for example, even, private analytics, anomaly detection, and some of the really kind of the foundational pieces of a self-driving network. And why a lot of this, piece of it is really coming from the cloud. You're starting to see a big shift on where the tools like management monitoring tools are, and why the cloud really makes sense for a majority of them out there. Even in Europe, and I know there's some concerns around GDPR when it comes to cloud-based tools, but I can talk about some of that. And then why, you brought up earlier about wireless LAN, and even wireless LAN and WAN is the fact is that it's a meshing together, kind of this fabric of connections. That's we're not really looking at things very broken down into a particular silo, in analyzing in that area. But the realities are that's a mesh of them to really enable what needs to happen. And unlike a lot of other kind of presentations or maybe reports out there, we are going to put some and I'm going to bring up some financial analysis that will support this and, makes it important to the business itself.
Awesome. Sounds intriguing. And I always have a lot of respect with people that are doing a lot of magic, because it's a magical day-to-day that have a lot of magic with numbers. How you get your head around it, it's just truly amazing. If all is well, I'm sharing the slide, Andre. And if I understand, you're also from California, right?
Yeah, but I was actually lived in Spain for about 20 years. In my first started off, my parents, my dad worked in Libya, and so I lived in Spain, and then we came back to the States. So now, like Tom, I'm in California now.
Yeah, so again, appreciated you getting up this early in the day. Thank you so much, Andre.
You're welcome.
All right. So without further ado, here I'm sharing the slides. You asked to do that. I can understand, because we want to make sure that there's not too much delay in the speech you're doing. So if all is well, you should be able to see this.
Yeah, I don't see anything on my side. I don't know if
now it's there.
If the participants are seeing things.
Yeah, now it's there.
They can see them.
Yeah. You should be able to see them as well. No, you're not. So digital business supported by ecosystem. That's the slide that I have right now.
Okay. So if you take as we kind of go into the next slide itself, I'm going to start a little bit differently than probably a lot of firms out there, or a lot of presentations when it comes to the analyst. I'm not going to show you, the market drivers or these huge uptakes in adoption around particular tools itself. As I mentioned, the business is really expecting a lot more from technology, and you're starting to see this in different areas on request on why should we invest in particular technology. So I'm going to start off more on, if we head into the next slide itself, more on the business side, and really kind of dig into that area, and then why, some of the financial analysis we did behind this, the technology that Juniper is offering resonates well with the business itself. Jan, give me 1 second. I'm not seeing the slides, so I'm going to switch my other login to a perspective, or to a regular participant. So 1 second.
Yeah. In the meanwhile, there are a couple of questions that came on, on security. We're constantly developing our security strategy, folks, and we're constantly integrating security elements. So that is for sure a given. Yeah, that goes without saying. And the other question was, will this with any LAN switch brand? Yes, the wireless LAN solution you can plug into any switch brand. Needless to say that what we get out of the switch, that is a Juniper integration, and that is not always available in the in any other brand. Yeah. So yeah. Sorry, Andre. Go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not seeing the slides. I wonder if I can I'll share from my side. I'll make it easier to know what slide you're on, because I'm not seeing it on this side.
I was on the rise of network fabrics outside of the data center. Yeah.
So on the image you're seeing in this area itself is, if you really think about, maybe if you can back up one slide to the kind of the ecosystems of what's going on, is that if you're on the left-hand side, and then you see the business, and the business very similar to, what's the customers are doing, that a business is serving a customer by using a lot of different resources and combining them together. So, the realities of marketing firms or vendors, whether it be like in a retail store stocking shelves, or the products in the retail store itself, doesn't come from the retailer. It comes from a bunch of vendors out there, and even the technology they use, the distribution, the trucks, the warehouses, all come in from a different set of resources. And you see this kind of a business perspective of different types of connections out there. And it makes them much more reactive to what the customer wants. On the right side is they're using a bunch of connections as well to a different set of resources. And we think about customers using their mobile phones, and they're not going to one set of type of resources when they make their decisions any part of their life. They're using a lot of different connections as well, and little bits of resources, information, whether it be friends on Facebook, whether it be review sites, whether it be YouTubes or Instagrams, as they make these decisions in each one of their lives themselves. And then if you go into the next slide, where we talk about this kind of fabric of connections, that is mirroring. So the business is setting up that they have this ecosystem of resources, and you see this kind of fabric connections in there. The same thing is happening in the technology world itself, right? And we're shifting ourselves, and this has been happening for a while, of applications being in a central location, a data center. Now you're starting to see applications and usage of them from the cloud. And it's not just an infrastructure as a service where they get built out there, but we think about SaaS as an application or backup. And so, interesting enough, if we just look at the left-hand side of the slide, it becomes this data center and these clouds and multi-cloud and hybrid clouds, where you're having multiple connections everywhere. And the idea of what we saw in the data center itself, of this fabric of connections that you can do with VXLAN, EVPN, and in this type of environment, starts to go out to the cloud, where now you have these bits of resources everywhere. And they even say that on the other side of it is that cloud and hybrid or multi-cloud, and those definitions are now really not just public and private cloud, and what that entails is now you're starting to see this edge come into the play, where you see data and applications being dispersed in all these areas itself. And so the fabric connections we think about in the data center now starts to, as I mentioned, starts to appear on the WAN side. And even inside the retail store or your bank or your hospital, that's happening as well. That there's all these connections in these areas, and we think about from the customer in there, or from the employee in there, or just even a sales office, the employees in there, that it's not just about them and their device connecting out to the area itself. What you're starting to see is even IoT. And you think about Philips light bulbs. They sold them off in 2015. They're Simplify now.
That's right.
Or you think about Bosch, or you think about these other areas, HVAC systems from and control systems from like Bosch, and security cameras and Mobidex are a few of them that you think about them. The realities are the cameras and the security lights or the lights themselves, even the HVAC systems within those areas, the devices are talking to each other. Very similar to what we saw in the data center where VMs were talking to each other, right?
Yeah.
And so we see that on this other side starting to appear, where light bulbs and then heating systems and security cameras based on the building and making these decisions of what goes on there and the interactions of the amount of employees and the time they start and things that are going on, that we see this kind of inner traffic as well as this traffic going in and out of the site itself. And so you start to see this very meshing of types of connections out there in this world. And so the reason why I bring it up is we go into the next slide, which should be the IoT slide, and kind of the pies is the realities of, if you look at the left side where ports out there and virtual ports in this environment, historically has been very dominated by mobile phones amount of connections. And then there's a slice of the pie amount of connections by servers and printers and things like that. So we look at the overall amount of ports in the world around us. It's going to be shifting to the right side. Is the realities of ports or virtual ports are going to be dominated by the IoT devices themselves. So VMs and printers and servers themselves, and that we traditionally thought is going to be a small piece of the pie compared to the 20, 30, 50, 100 billion, whatever people are talking about there. The majority of them will be these IoT devices all talking to each other. And so this is a very important aspect of why I want to bring this up, is that when we think about that in that area, is you're going to start to use and think about the fact is that all these things, all these devices, as well as the traditional technology, as we kind of go into the next slide itself, is that now you have this kind of disappearing of the idea that things are just on the wireless LAN or just the LAN, and these segments get broken down, that the reality now you kind of create this business-wide fabric, because data and applications are going to be everywhere, whether it be on some of the IoT devices or like an edge compute server storage, or in a cloud or a SaaS or private cloud. All these are going to have not just physical, but these virtual connections all over the place. And so why I want to bring this up is the complexity is going to be blown 2 or 3, 4 or 5 magnitudes compared to what you see in a data center and creating fabrics, or even what we see in WAN today, that the realities of what we've done in the past, and dependent on very kind of manual tools, or even just tools that are just kind of dumb, is not going to suffice to where we need to go and where things are going in the world around us itself. And then as we kind of go into the next slide, where you're seeing this clock, the realities are, it's not just also about, people talk about, and they come to you and they talk about one particular technology or another. The realities are, it's a lot of technologies that are going to enable this world that is responding to the digitalization that's starting to happen within these companies, or already happening within companies out there. And the realities are that it's the intermixing of all these technologies that are going to enable a lot of this response to the customer, and the customer, using technologies to make decisions in every day of their life. And so you just see this increase of speed and information using multiple technologies in this area itself, which then drives us to the idea that if you go into the next slide, Jan, is that we start to see the realities of one thing happening is to be able to manage this world is you start to realize that we're going to have artificial intelligence and machine learning take up a lot of this, because making decisions on security and connections that are not going to be static, that they're always going to be readjusting depending on the types of connections need to happen and where the information needs to come from. When we think about that, the fact is that a lot of things inside that building are caustic, are not safe, that don't belong to the company, and they need to be segmented, they need to be isolated. And similar to what we saw VMs in the data center, you're going to start to see IoT device get put into VXLANs and VXLANs and managed by EVPN on the edge of the network itself. Very similar to what we saw in the data center, and these connections that come and go need to be dynamic, and you need to understand what goes on, whether it be on wired or wireless or WAN itself. And so the idea that having something on site, having this ability to recognize and make decisions and shift and spin things up and down is not going to work anymore, that you need to have management and monitoring things that typically were on site itself start to be in a cloud, to use that cloud-based compute and storage that is a lot larger than what a lot of organizations have on site. So you start to see this shift in companies, and especially networking organizations, use SaaS and use as a main foundation to supporting the networking organization and the tools coming from that area. And because when we think about that, so many things need to happen at one time, that AI and machine learning can be better leveraged, the compute and storage that's out there for many organizations. And I realize that a lot of European customers come to me and say, well, we're worried about putting information out there because of GDPR and privacy and security. Already 43% of European organizations are using ERP systems. The businesses are using ERP systems. They're using, and 33% of companies out there in Europe, or European-based companies, are already using financial SaaS-based systems. So if they're meeting the GDPR requirements of that SaaS-based or the SaaS-based company, like, if we think about Mist, that, whether it be a processor or a broker, then you can use that as part of your collection of tools out there. And the reality is that SaaS-based systems, and especially when it comes to upgrades, much quicker. They fix bugs within the software at a much quicker rate than organizations can do on site itself. Typically, what you see is also SaaS-based systems are much more secure because they are fixing it much quicker itself, but also they find things quicker, and they have one set of really software they're updating and not requiring it to be pushed out to different customers that have on site. So not just from a security perspective, but even a cost perspective, we're seeing that instead of setting things up on site, managing and keeping them updated and making sure that it's meeting the security profiles and in having a dedicated set of servers and storage for these devices, the cost is much lower for SaaS-based systems out there. And even the reality is too that one of the biggest things is infrastructures need to be on 5 or 6 nines, always on. And because the realities are that so much of a business, whether it be healthcare or even aircraft or the airports, they're using so much technology, there's no acceptable downtime anymore. It is too costly. In the US, we had 4 airlines that had network issues. The least amount in the US was $280 million to remove aircraft around and reticket people just for an hour of downtime from the network itself. Just too costly in this area. And so we think about, from a disaster recovery, a lot of on-premise systems can't be moved to another data center or out to the cloud. And so SaaS-based systems are much more resilient to that area itself. And the things I bring up from a cost and perspective, we go into the next slide, you start to see this kind of water faucet is Forrester. Part of our analysis is we look at things from a financial perspective. And we look at the benefits and cost and the flexibility of using it, we create this kind of report that Juniper had bought is a total economic report. It encapsulates more than the ROI. And if we go into the next slide, it's built on the idea that what we do is our due diligence around designing the report itself, and we do customer interviews. And this one we had 4 European customers and one customer in the US, and I think one customer in Asia. And they range in size from 30,000 employees to 10,000 employees. And we interviewed them, and we took information on, extracted it, and asked them questions around, what benefits they get out of it? Could they quantify it? How long did it take them to do it? What was it from the training perspective? So asked them a very large amount of questions, interviews, and had them fill out information to create this in composite organizations. We combined it together and developed kind of this case study that this wired and wireless access driven by Mist AI case study that you can probably get from Jan or somebody else, your account manager, or you can download it. I'm sure it's on the website itself. But just to give you an example of what the value we saw of using tools to support this environment. I said that it's getting very complex and it has to be done. Is it worth it? Definitely. Return on investment within a 7-month period was a break. You break even on it. And even after that, it's a 34% return on ROI. And one of the things I want to highlight about it is, and then Jan or Tom had brought this up earlier, is you start to use AI to find things and solve problems that you start to see, a 50% drop in help desk tickets is what we found, for example, in our analysis out there. And I know Tom had brought up even a larger one in it, but we look at it from a composite area. But even the help desk tickets come in, if you can reduce, the amount of time it takes to resolve them by 85%, think about the amount of money that's being saved. But also the fact is that business or particular employees or a plant is not being down, and the revenue that could be generated or that's not sacrificed from being able to solve things in a much quicker manner itself. And so this is the kind of data that's in the report that you can download, which reaffirms and pushes and gives you the information you give to the business. Say the amount of money we spend on this software, the amount of money we spend on with Juniper, for example, this is the value it's going to bring, and this is the amount of money it's going to return, and what it's going to cost us, and the benefits that come out of it. And just so you don't think we're throwing numbers at the wall and stuff. If we go into the next slide, you'll see that just, for example, one table in there, you can get into the numbers itself and understand how they were created. And this is just from the fact is that we were just looking at from the tickets coming in and the value of it. There was other value behind it. We looked at the other areas of efficiency gains or cost savings from, moving away from on-site legacy network management and what the value that would be itself. But this table shows you how we calculated and where, the numbers that we're doing in there. So you don't think that it was magic or that we were stirring the pot in some way. I also want to just say one thing is we don't do this, if it doesn't make sense, this report doesn't go out because it can't counter my own research. So there's a consulting team that puts these numbers together. That from a financial side, I guide them because I'm a technology person and an engineer itself. But the realities are that we don't do this for every company and everything that comes in here. So if the numbers don't work out, we're not sending them out. We're not releasing this type of report. One thing I just want to kind of, leave you off, going to the next slide itself. It's not just the value of AI and ML when we're thinking about these things. And the fact is that the shifting to kind of a SaaS-based systems that enable this to happen to make things better is that think about this from a bigger perspective and things that not just from financial. When we're looking at this, the value is also make sure that from these systems that you have the ability to get into and use the information in there, because the vendor, whoever they are, when you're using a cloud SaaS-based system, there's a lot of data that needs to be extracted and used by other tools out there, whether it be in this area itself. And so the reason why I bring it up, for example, being able to use Postman and API management in this area is important because you want to extract it to other tools that maybe that system in SaaS doesn't give you the ability to look at everything in every way. And even extracting them into other teams or giving the information to other teams is important when we think about that ability to do it to serve the security team, other teams for their tools. And so make sure it has a robust API system. I know I'm a little bit over time, but let me just kind of summarize that as I mentioned, a lot of the fact is that the AI/ML will be a fundamental piece to kind of software-driven network, and the fact is that where things are going, and it's really going to be from these cloud-based systems. But remember, not all of them are equal out there, and take a look at and maybe really do your homework on their ability to do it. And just because they put something in cloud doesn't make it good. I see a lot of the companies out there do a lift and shift. They have stuff that's on site and they're just putting it in cloud. 99.99% of them are not good. If you dig into the features, you dig into the capabilities, it's really a clumsy type of thing that a lot of good SaaS-based systems are actually built from the ground up. They were built in cloud and then as a brand new system, not compared to a lift and shift. I can highly recommend that a lot of the market will shift to not everything, but most monitoring management tools, especially from the networking perspective, will shift to the cloud-based systems itself. And the realities are, it's worth the investment today because the things that are going on in the wired and wireless and the WAN side is really only a drop in the bucket to the amount of devices that will be connecting that, and it will generate traffic and need security concerns, and it will be causing issues on the network itself. And it's worth the investment today and to build that out and the expertise in that area before you'll see the deluge of IoT devices, which will wreak havoc on most business, 99% of businesses out there.
Yeah. Amazing.
I know I went over time, Jan.
Yeah,
but,
no worries, no worries. It was very interesting. I know we were maybe a little bit acclimatizing into the start, but amazing information, Andre. Thank you very much for sharing this. And you're right, folks on the call, AI is important. We've done a brief demo on this. I wish I could do a deeper dive. My team is there for you. And this report, we can make it available for yourself that you can double click on this. As to Andre's point, is not something we grasp out of thin air. It's not a funded report that we paid. This is a truly genuine analysis from Forrester. So thank you, Andre. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Cheers.
All right, thank you. Oh, folks, we promised some magic. So I'm going to do a magic trick here because we ran out of time. I have here just a little paper bag, as you can see, and I have a bottle. This is just a bottle. I'm going to make this bottle disappear. Magic. You see, it goes in the bag. It's gone. You see, bottle is gone. Here is the bottle again. Well, you know what? That sucks. I'm not going to do this. Martin, if you're there, show us some real magic.
Jan, thank you very much. In fairness, I'm not really sure how I'm meant to follow that. That was a pretty impressive trick you did there, Jan. Hello there, one and all. My name is Martin Rees. I am a Guinness World Record breaking magician. And welcome to my little magical set. Now, for the next 10 minutes, we are going to have a little crazy journey through my magical world. And I would like you all right now to just drop a comment in the chat box. If you have got right now the items you required, which is the product of 2020, a roll of toilet paper, and also something to use as a magic wand. It could be anything you like, a pen, pencil. Have you got a magic wand there, Jan?
I have it, and you just need to, just say stop. It's growing. It's growing.
It's getting bigger and bigger, Jan. I'll tell you what, stop there. I'll tell you what, yours is a bit more impressive because I just got a coloured in piece of string right now. In fact, if each and every one of you, I need your help, and yourself, Jan, grab your magic wand for me. I'm going to count to 3. I want all of you to go whoosh at the piece of string and watch what happens. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Whoosh. And I do that. There we go. Turns that into my magical wand. So thank you for your help with that. Right, we're going to kick start right now with a humble card trick, because during the various lockdowns we've had over the last 2 years, it's been difficult at times to buy replacement magical items, and in particular playing cards, because I go for a lot of playing cards when I'm performing. So I've just started making my own. Firstly, I'll cut the template of a card box out of a piece of card. Now I'm going to count to 3. I want all of you to blow on the card box and watch what happens. Ready? 1, 2, 3, blow. We're doing that, we're going to print the card box. So now we end up with an empty printed card box, which if we make into a card box shape, I'll count to 3 again. I want you to blow. Ready? 1, 2, 3, blow. And in doing that, the box pops open. We then produce a full deck of playing cards. Now, there's lots of different types of cards out there. In this case, I've got a blue-backed bicycle deck, which means that the spades and clubs are black and the hearts and diamonds are red. So we'd refer to these cards as being red and black and blue, and red and black and blue. Now, usually when doing a card trick, I'd fan them face down, which means that I can't see what's going to be picked. But this time we're going to do it face up. As I can see you, Jan, there. Do you mind assisting me with this? I'm just going to go through the cards. Say stop anytime you like for me, Jan.
Stop.
Perfect. Name out loud. Any card you can see right now?
Out loud, heart of 10.
The 10 of hearts, which is right there. Great. Okay, so yeah, you could have chosen any of these or any of these. We're going to call the 10 of hearts your AI in action session card. Now, if we're in the same room doing this right now, Jan would have taken the card out, shown you all the card, put it back in, then would have shuffled them up and found some crazy way of locating it. But because we've done this face up and we know it's the 10 of hearts, I'm not going to do any shuffling. I'm going to count to 3. I want you all to blow on the cards and watch what happens. Ready? 1, 2, 3, blow. You're going to do that with the cards instantaneously in front of your faces, go red and red and red all the way through the cards. But obviously we still need to find the 10 of hearts. So I'm going to dribble down again. I'm going to count to 3. We need all to blow again on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3, blow. Boom. You see right there, one card actually pops back into a blue card as you blow on the cards. And it could have been any of these or any of these that you named, Jan, but you didn't. You named one card. What was that card?
10 of hearts.
Indeed, and the only blue card left happens to be the 10 of hearts. Now,
Truly amazing.
Okay, it does create a little problem though, Jan, because it means now I've got one blue 10 of hearts in what is a red deck. And after all, this is your AI in action session card. So one last time, I'm going to count to 3. I want all of you to blow on the 10 of hearts and watch what happens. Ready? 1, 2, 3, blow. Been doing that, turns into your very own AI in action team session card.
Amazing. This is amazing. How do you do it, Martin?
It's only going to get crazier from here, Jan. So I tell you what, speaking of going shopping, it's been, I don't know about you, but I find sometimes when I go shopping, I get overexcited. And especially these days with it all being online, you tend to impulse buy. And you know what it's like, you put too many items in your basket, you go and pay and literally burn a hole in your wallet or your purse, which is never good, especially when you've got a fine looking beard like this, right? But there's something that's even worse. But when you think you've got money, you don't. All you have left is a load of receipts, because the receipts, what the shopkeeper gives you when you buy your items, and obviously you can't buy anything with receipts. So at this point, most people take out credit cards and debit cards, but I've discovered if you take the receipts, go 3, 2, 1, and give them a shake, you can turn those receipts right back into the real money. Now, there's lots of different ways of telling if a banknote is real, and we've recently changed over here to the new plastic currency. And I found also, I mean, I'm guessing we've got people tuning in right now from all over the globe, potentially predominantly in Europe as well. So I've discovered you can do a similar thing with euros as well. But with the new £10 notes, they've included a few security features now. For instance, you've got the see-through window in there. Not many people know this, but if you touch the Queen on the nose in just the right place, you can produce a Chubba Chubs lolly from the banknote, because it transpires that Queen Elizabeth is actually a massive fan of the Chubba Chub lolly. And I can prove this, because if I go 3, 2, 1, we can slam the lolly right into her face, which some would consider treason. I just say it's crazy, because you can't spend the money now or eat the lolly. So instead we go 3, 2, 1, so that all the way back through. So you visibly see it go through without leaving a hole in her face. Pop the lolly back inside, and that's how you know you got a real £10 note.
You need to teach me that trick. Definitely from the receipts to money. The lolly, I couldn't care less about it, but the receipts to money, the reverse engineering there is really nice.
Indeed, that is the one that most people like to inquire about. So right, I tell you what, let's get you all involved now in a couple of tricks, because this is actually, I'm sorry, Jan and co. There is actually one other item I was meant to tell you that everyone needed to bring for this session. So I'm hoping you've all got one of these lying around right now. It is indeed a pair of hands. So if you all happen to have a pair of hands available, grab your hands for me, hold them out in front of you like this, fingers outstretched, thumbs up in the air. Some of you may already know how this works. If you do, great. If not, it's very simple. With your thumbs up in the air, you're now going to rotate your thumbs in, around, and point them towards the ground. You're then going to cross over your arms, and then you're going to interlink your fingers. Now, make sure you don't clasp them. Make sure they're interlinked. Also, this helps if your arms are straight as well. So if you're sat close to the camera right now, just move back and straighten your arms. Now, we'll do this all together, okay? You're just going to count in and go 3, 2, 1. Like that. You can then turn your hands upright and then separate your hands. Anyone? Anyone? No? No worries if you didn't get it. No worries if you didn't get it. Because it's come to that time, one and all, where we are going to use the thing that everyone was going crazy for last year, the product. Oh, not last year, sorry, in 2020, the product of 2020, the toilet roll. So grab your toilet rolls, and we are going to use it sparingly, so just pull off one sheet for me. And in fact, also, this is also where you're going to need your magic wand as well. So make sure you've got your magic wand to hand, put it to one side so it's nice and safe. Now, this is very simple. We're just going to do this all together right now. With the piece of tissue in your fingers, put the magic wand over to the side. We're just going to rip the tissue in half. Now, some of you may find you get a nice straight tear. Some of you may get a jagged tear. That's because of the orientation of the tissue. It doesn't matter, because we're going to keep on ripping it up. So once you ripped it in half, put those pieces together and then rip them again. You can rip it into strips. You can rip it into quarters, whichever way you like. Keep on putting those pieces together and keep on ripping down until you get to about the size of a large postage stamp. And I will say, Jan, since doing all of my magic online, I've found kids under the age of 15 no longer seem to know the term large postage stamp, which just makes me feel ancient. But anyways, now we've got this tissue ripped up. All you're going to do is screw these pieces up into a ball. Push all the edges in nice and tight. Make sure there's no loose bits sticking out, because you do sometimes get those little flaky bits that build up in your fingertips as well. So you ball those up and put those in. And there's always one or two of you, I can guarantee you're doing it right now, that does the hand roll technique. So you can use the hand roll technique as well if you wish to roll it up. Now we're going to put it into our fingers like this. And then you're going to go like this, ready? You're going to go... Perfect. Then you're going to go... Perfect. Then you're going to go... That's it. Yes, Jan. Yes, this is very serious. That's it. Nice and wet. Like it. Okay. Then you're going to go... Perfect. Now, each and every one of you, unroll your tissue and pull those pieces apart. And as you pull them apart, all of those pieces in your fingers are probably still in pieces. Sorry, I've just realized I forgot the most important thing, the magic wand. So you tap on the tissue first with the magic wand, and then in doing that, there we go, all those pieces join themselves back together, piece by piece, into one complete tissue. Now, I will say...
Hold on, look at this. It worked.
Hey, look at that, yeah. I'm not going to lie, certainly picked that one up. So, but if your tissue didn't restore like Jan's, then don't
magic
worry.
Wand. It's the magic wand, Martin.
That is exactly what I was going to say, Jan. We are going to go back through this a little bit later. And it is indeed the magic wand that does the trick, as Jan will demonstrate later as well. So thank you, one and all. And I will be joining you back again a little bit later. And back over to Jan.
Thank you so much, Martin. This was really fun. Look forward to the rest of the call. All right, if all is well, Raymond, my friend Raymond Hendricks, and big fan of WLPC, should be on the call. There he is.
Yes,
Raymond,
I am. Good morning.
Yeah, you are right now. Where was it? Richardson? Where were you again?
No, Phoenix, Arizona.
Phoenix, Arizona. So you see, all the speakers that we invited, we have here from the US on the call. However, Raymond himself, he is actually from the Netherlands, but is participating in a training. No, not participating. You're providing a training, if I'm not mistaken. And you're also joining the WLPC forum, where you are actively participating in, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, so there is an annual Wi-Fi conference, so where all the Wi-Fi nerds basically gather, and we share knowledge. Keith Parson, who is the organizer, is he says, like, knowledge is like manure. If you spread it around, things grow. If you keep it to yourself, you stink. So that's what we're doing here. We are sharing all that knowledge.
Yeah, amazing. So Raymond, thank you so much for joining our event here. And the reason why I invited Raymond is, Raymond, he's a long-time veteran into the wireless industry. And wireless, it's not something you install and forget. Wireless, there are a lot of things that could influence. You have to make sure that you have the right setup for the right amount of devices and so on. There's a lot that is coming into the play. And Raymond, I've asked you to enlighten us a little bit on what does it take to build a proper wireless infrastructure, but also, how AI can help you and your end customers and the people into, optimizing that infrastructure. Take it away, Raymond.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So let me share my presentation. I prepared a little presentation. So what I would like to present about is telling you guys about how does AI help me as a independent contractor or as an independent consultant. So we as Wi-Fi Wise, the company that I own, we focus on vendor neutrality. So we do basically different types of vendors, whatever the customer requires. So a little bit about myself. So Raymond Hendricks, I do Wi-Fi. Basically, that's our main focus point in the company. And some of you might know the title, but I'm also a CWNE, which is I think the highest vendor neutral certification one can get at this time. And I'm also a member of the CWNE advisory board. So when other people apply for this certification, we look at, do they have enough experience and publications to see that will they make the cut, basically. Experience in Wi-Fi, like as you said, a long time. I even started my career in the military doing electronic warfare, so basically using massive amounts of power to jam other things. So I got started into wireless a long time ago, and we do Wi-Fi in different verticals, in different locations. So we do design, we do troubleshooting, we do training. I teach the JNCIS MIST training as well, which is a really good training if you want to know more about the MIST environment. And we also do Wi-Fi for events. So all lockdown events haven't happened for quite a while, but one thing that did happen in the Netherlands, a large event, was the Formula One, and we did the Wi-Fi design and maintained that during the event. So all kinds of verticals, all kinds of levels of experience. So I wanted to talk to you about a consulting job that we've done a while back for a healthcare company. And they came to us saying, okay, well, we have this older environment, and it doesn't meet our requirements anymore. They had controllers, but they couldn't upgrade the controllers because they also had some older APs. And so if they would upgrade the controller, then the older APs wouldn't be supported anymore, but they also needed to add new APs because there wasn't enough coverage, and they had some issues. They wanted outdoor. And so all of that came into, okay, our Cisco environment doesn't meet our requirements anymore. So they were migrating from an old Cisco environment to something new. It's an organization with over 30 locations. In total, we were talking about 2,000 APs. So we were there to look at, okay, what do you want and how can we help you? So, of course, in every project that you want to do, you want to have a look at, okay, what does the customer want? What does the customer require? And what are even side things that could help the customer as well? So getting those client requirements and getting those maybe additional wishes, having that in a clear context. That's the first thing you do. But sometimes it's also the biggest challenge that you might have as a consultant, because clients sometimes don't know what they want. They'll just say, we want Wi-Fi. And so you need to look at, okay, where and for what devices and all these kind of things we looked into, and also trying to envision, okay, well, this is what you need and have now, but also what do you need in the future? So we that's our first focus point. And then, okay, looking at which vendors would you like to use, or which vendors would you like to pick up on? So we needed to demarcate the selection of vendors, because there's of course a whole range of vendors out there. So one of the things that we've done, and they requested as well, is we looked at the Gartner research, and they said, well, things that we want is, we'd like a vendor that is in the magic quadrant, that it gives us a warm, fuzzy feeling, right? It's a well-known brand. They have proven themselves, so that's one of the things that they'd like. Then they said, well, we'd also like a cloud solution. We were getting rid of our data center, every other thing that we use is in the cloud as well. So we'd like to look at a cloud solution. And another thing, they said, well, we have these 2,000 APs. We'd like to do as little as recabling as possible. So basically, all of their requirements were put in a mix. And so we came to a vendor comparison. So we looked at, okay, which of the vendors in the magic quadrant would meet their requirements. Looked at all the different things in looking at hardware, looking at spatial streams, looking at availability, looking at extra features. API was one of their requirements as well, so they could integrate into their RF or into their network as well, and maybe automize and optimize things as well. But going back to the we'd like to do as little cabling as possible. We also went back to, okay, we need to look at RF. So we've done an analysis on the APs that different vendors had. And so we looked at their RF patterns, the APs they had at that time, and then looking at all the different vendors, okay, which one would have the best RF pattern, and then would also meet their requirements in least cabling. So that is one of the things that we looked at. But when we're looking at RF, we're also looking at RRM, right? We need to look at radio resource management. And so that was one of the key features that also helped in the selection for this customer, that RRM, well, Mist has the AI-driven RRM, right? So looking at all the data and getting that into the cloud. So the AI, and we're not talking about Skynet, right? So we're looking at a more confined way of doing AI. And so how Mist does AI, their AI-driven RRM is a very smart machine learning algorithm that they've done, where the SLEs that you've presented before, where you can see, okay, how is my network doing? all that data, over 150 data points, get fed into a big data set being analyzed by the AI, and it'll look at, okay, can we do some changes into the network? And it'll do small tweaks, seeing could I change power or could I change a different channel? And then that would be implemented into the RF environment. And from there, we get new data points, and those data points will make up our SLEs again. And then it's, okay, the change that I did it make an improvement, yes or no? And so it learns based on those things. It's similar like us as humans. We, as a kids, we learn due to reinforcement learning as well. We start walking and we fall down, hurt our knees, and okay, that's not a good way to start learning how to walk. So we do and try things differently. This is how the RM works as well. And so this would really help the customer in, okay, we want to deploy our APs with the least amount of cabling. We have an RF pattern that matches our requirements. And so it would be a good fit to see, to make this work in their environment and replace the APs one by one. And normally I'm not a big fan of doing a rip and replace, but in this case it was a requirement, so we had to figure out, okay, what is the best fit for their requirements. And so the result was we looked at different vendors, and in the end it was a match between Juniper Mist as a solution and Cisco Meraki. Both are fully cloud-based, met all their requirements. And so we were looking at a AP32 versus a Meraki MR46, if I recall correctly. And the weird thing, or not the weird thing, but the fortunate thing is the customer looked beyond just bottom line pricing. Because in the end, we said, well, if we make it even more expensive using a Mist solution, and it drove the price a little bit, but then they could use the AP33, but by making it more expensive, they gained more features, and the more features, in the end, made it as they could use the BLE radios, use location services, so they could basically get rid of other services and also improve in, okay, where can we find wheelchairs, where can we find other things? So by getting the extras, the return on investment even got less. So it's just not looking at bottom price, but looking at features, looking at everything else. And luckily, or not luckily, they were smart enough to do so. Even the board of directors, we were able to convince the board of directors. And so they now have a really nice working Mist solution. And they're really happy with it.
So Raymond, it's actually a confirmation what our friend Andre from Forrester just shared with us, right? So if I understood you well, you analyzed the existing installation. If I understood you well, it was about maximizing the reuse of cabling, because if you need to recable things, that's another cost that comes with it. Yeah. Yep. As Tom said, this was a Cisco customer. Yeah. That means the brackets we can reuse. That's a huge huge money saver, because we don't have to have other screws, take out that bracket, install that new bracket. We can reuse that bracket. Yeah. We could verify the coverage. Yeah. And we can have additional services to even make a better ROI than ever before with any other technology. Is that a good summary?
That is an absolute good summary, yes.
Awesome. So Raymond, thank you very much for throwing a light on what you did. Give my best to our friend Robert Boardman, because I know you're going to attend his wedding as well. He's going to be married this week, or was it last week?
Last week, yeah. He married in November, but all the COVID stuff, that was a online wedding.
Yeah.
And the party was last week, yes.
Yeah, the party was
here
last.
And WLPC as well. And then so is Bob Friday.
Yeah.
So is Sudhir. All the but that's the fun thing of this conference. So Mist is here, but Ruckus is here as well. Aruba is here as well. But during the day, there's no vendor speak. It's all
wireless in general. Thank you so much. Think about the AP45. This is something that is coming on later on the year, but that is for the next Mist Live. Raymond, thank you so much. We need to go to answer a couple of questions. I had a question on, how about layer 3 networks? How you're going to deal with this? Well, exactly. So layer 3, if you just have a layer 3, and Raymond is still here on the call, if you have a layer 3 network, roaming between APs is done on layer 2. So if you just have a layer 3 network, we need to tunnel it back to a central location. And for that, I don't remember, I think it was Arjan that asked this question. We have a Mist Edge to actually enable this. And on the slides from Tom in the very beginning, you've seen MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where we have allowed 10,000 APs, maybe a little bit more, but that whole campus, if you look it up on maps, Google Maps, that whole campus, above and below ground, you can roam through that whole campus without losing your session. That is what we do. There was another question on Cisco, LLDP, CDP. We have to turn on LLDP to get a little bit more insights on what port things are. We don't support CDP. CDP is a Cisco proprietary thing. We do support LLDP, so that has to be configured. Not an issue. I have here another question. Are they only fit on Cisco brackets? Is there a support of an adapter for Aruba APs? As far as I know, they're not. It is right now the bracket, so the 4 points on our AP, they really fit nicely the Cisco bracket. Raymond, if you're still there, thank you so much. Have fun in Phoenix, Arizona.
Will do.
And I hope you...
Yeah, it's the VESA 1010, which is basically why it fits on Aruba, or not on Aruba brackets, but on Cisco brackets. Use the VESA 1010 solution.
There you go. That's the value of our consultant. Immediate response. Thank you, Raymond. Look forward to meet you live again. If all is well, we have Herman Moens from the Catholic University of Leuven on the call. Herman, hey, look at that. Hello. You have a nice background. Thank you.
Okay, nice to be here.
Isn't it nice to have a nice, bright, sunny day today and we're locked into a room?
Yeah, right.
At least you have a window. Awesome. Herman, thank you so much for attending our session here, because it is important for us that we share experience from existing customers. I know you don't have a huge, widely installation, but when we were starting to talk, I was very intrigued with the track record, the path you went through to get this done. But before we go there, could you maybe do a little bit an introduction of yourself? What do you do at the Catholic University of Leuven, and so on?
Yeah, no problem. So I'm manager IT infrastructure at the University of Leuven, which means that we do data center, the servers and storage, but also the network with the teams. Because this is concerning networking, so we do, let's say, networking wired and wireless for staff and students. And this is a bit of a mixed situation, because the staff, that's easy, that's typical office environment, like you have in lots of locations. But students is also the student dorms and the classrooms where students come with their own devices, where they live and not only study, but also live. And that's, let's say, a challenging environment. And that's where we actually deployed Mist in one of the dorms that we had as a test case.
Yeah, amazing. So what I hear you say is that The biggest challenge you have is not the environment per se, but is you don't know what students bring to the network. It could be a PlayStation, it could be the worst maybe phone from 10 years ago, but also the most hyper modern device.
That's essentially correct. So that's our challenge in student environments. The reason that I looked at it at NIST, in fact, has nothing to do, in fact, with the wireless environment that we already have in place, but it was because we were intrigued by a NIST in Action event that happened in May last year here in Belgium, where we heard a story that sounded interesting, but also sounded a little bit too good to be true.
Magical. Magical.
And well, what we did then is we contacted Juniper just to get a few access points and to try out stuff ourselves, just to see whether it works on a technical point, whether it is indeed easy to set up and deploy, and to explore let's say the NIST platform for management.
Yeah.
And so that was in fact our first experience with, let's say, 2-3 access points just to try it out.
Yeah. So Herman, if you go back in that time where you had these 3 APs installed and you set it all up, I'm pretty sure that you still remember what was the first thing that for you popped out. What you said was like, wow, this is uniquely different.
Well, one thing that immediately popped out was that we didn't need retraining. So it worked very intuitively. So we had basically things up and running ASAP, immediately. And one of the things that really popped out was the cloud-based controller. We really hadn't expected it to be so responsive. So it was just like you had a local controller on campus, right?
Yeah, amazing.
That was really amazing.
Right? Yeah. And thank you for sharing that. So you build this first a couple of APs in a lab just to try out if all your configurations would work from security point of view, I guess, from device connectivity, from firewall settings and so on. But I'm assuming that you don't stay in that lab environment. You had to go live. Yeah. So how is that transition? Because, setting some things up, sometimes you need to redo everything again. So how was that experience?
Yeah. So we have a little bit of, let's say, an issue with the current situation on the market. So there's shortages in deliveries and so on. And we had, in summer last year, we had an expected delivery in August that turned out to be late, but our students in a dorm had to be, they were arriving at September 10, so when the academic year started. So we had a bit of an issue there. We looked around and Juniper, they had access points available. So we first tried, our plan first was in fact to do let's say a more proof of concept. It was already done, but a more substantial pilot at the IT department itself. But the reality caught up with us, so we really had to deploy live in that student residency. We did an emergency order, so that went well. Access points arrived, let's say, start of September, but and we had to be live 10 of September, and we did that. So we managed to give students Wi-Fi from day one that they arrived, which was amazing because we really hadn't expected that to set up NIST Edge, to set up to the access points itself in the dorm, to have everything managed, operational, and so on in let's say basically 10 days. Right?
Wow, that's really good.
That was really a good experience.
Yeah, that is very well. You heard just now there was somebody who's asking for layer 3. I said this is a NIST Edge project that could fix this. How are you using NIST Edge in your scenario, Herman?
Yeah, so we use NIST Edge just to let's say copy the setup that we had on our existing LAN with central controllers. So we have no local breakout, which was a bit difficult to introduce in the network. So we now tunnel to the NIST Edge, and from there we can
Right.
and go back to the internet. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we did also a redundant setup. So we had 2 missed edges so that we had redundancy.
Yeah.
Which is also great because we already tested that the failover between the two is, let's say, not noticeable for users, right?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, and then with Edge, you had a traditional AP with a centralized controller setup, and it's just taking that out, putting the APs and then the missed edge in. So this was a really transparent, rip and replace setup, so to speak, if I get you well.
That's correct. And so let's say, fortunately for us, it's doable because we have many different buildings, and a big bang is not possible for a budget wise.
Yeah.
So we did it, let's say, one building. Students are with 100 access points. And that was a very good experience. We were very, very happy with that one. Yeah.
Amazing. So everything is running. Can you tell me something about the insights you might now get from the client connectivity? Now that everything is working, what is now useful for you in this day and operations that you're now having?
So this, let's say, from a user standpoint, for us, what's really a plus is the insight you get from the Marvis, so the AI component, because you showed it a little bit before at the beginning, that overall dashboard that you have, which is great if you walk in the morning, you can just have a look at it, see if there are any problems and so on. That is a very, very nice thing to have. And the other things that we use frequently, because it is a new building that we put up and running, frequently at the beginning, the first few months, is to identify, let's say, coverage problems, which is really easy via the portal. So it's very easy to find out where you, let's say, move an access point a little bit to get better coverage to users, just to identify areas where we had to put in an additional access point. It's also very easy. And what we also really like is that you can follow individual users, because if an individual user has some complaints, you just can ask Marvis, show me this user, everything that is going on with him, and you can actually see what's happening with that specific user and the specific devices he has. And you also get the direct feedback that it's, let's say, a general problem or a user-specific problem. And that's in an intuitive way. And that's what I think is really important, that it's intuitive, that you don't have to be, it's not rocket science anymore. It's day-to-base, daily operations for someone who is not a real wireless expert, for instance. That was really great.
Yeah. Can I take you in one of my demos, Herman? Because you're preaching to the choir. I know all these things, but if it comes from a customer, it's so much. It gives so much more context. Herman, so thank you so much for sharing this and for your business and so on. And I know we will see what happens in the future. But with what you've learned, is there something you would like to share with the people here on the call? You say, hey man, look at this, or don't look at it, or do this like yourself, go into a lab, then go to live. What would you share with the audience here?
Well, the thing is that I think from an IT department standpoint, you should, it's really easy. Juniper helps you with acquiring a few access points to try the thing. And it's really worth the effort to try it. Because we set it up, like I said, it's just a couple of days' work. I mean, it's not a huge effort. And then you can really get confidence that it's not just marketing talk, and which is what we thought at the beginning. And then once you're convinced that things indeed work like you say it works, you should do, let's say, a more real-life setup. And that's just do it in one building, set it up, and try it out in real life conditions. Because lab condition and real life condition is typically something different.
Definitely.
And if you are in a university context, a scene where students are active is really the best way, because
everybody knows that with a laptop in an office environment, it just works. It's not really that much extra that you get from vendors. But if you have a student environment with all the different devices that they have, and students are also very vocal in complaining.
Yeah.
So that's something that really helps. And what we really think is, let's say, we want to avoid troubleshooting. We don't have the capacity to do extensive troubleshooting on site. And with the tools that are available in the portal, you can do lots of troubleshooting just beforehand and proactively.
Yeah.
And that's really added value, I guess.
Yeah, and as a personal testimonial, my son goes to the Catholic University of Leuven, and he told me there is a difference in the area where he lives. I don't know what areas he's walking, but he said there is suddenly a difference. So I'm pretty sure he's in that environment somewhere. Anyway, Herman, thank you so much, and really I hope soon we could have a beer or maybe a good lunch in Leuven or wherever. Myself, I live in Zichem. If you pass in Zichem, let me know. It would be great to talk a little bit more on this. And if we can help you in any way or form, let us know. Really appreciate you taking it.
Do that. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Herman. All right. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you so much. Yeah, so this leads me to our wrap up for today. We're going to have, of course, also a little Kahoots quiz. It's going to be very, very hard, this quiz. But before that, I'm going to first respond to a question from Arnie. Is Mist Cloud MSP friendly? That will say, can we, as an MSP, join many different companies? We couldn't squeeze this into the demo, Arnie, but Mist is a really, we have a specific login for MSPs. Again, talk to your individual Juniper reps or partner reps. Let us know. You can, in the MSP, you could create default blueprints where you say, this is a branch blueprint, this is this, where you say then, I want to create a new organization based on this blueprint, and in less than a minute, you have your customer setup. Yeah, so really for MSPs, there is a lot we can do there too. The question for LLDP, CDP, I haven't heard anything, Steve, on this so far. I can imagine that this is happening, but let us park that question. I can always ask to engineers in our team if they have this, or ask it to your engineer that is responsible for your area. We can do that. On the closing, I'm going to share just a little slide. In the meanwhile, you could go to kahoot.it or kahoot.com just as a preparation, but we will do that in a moment. So as a closing slide, what do we want you to take away? It is truly, well, seeing is believing. That's the first thing. You heard it first from Herman. Seeing is truly believing. He said, we thought it was a lot of marketing. Well, this is not marketing. Yeah, it is really, truly. And we give you client-level visibility as you've never seen before. And we do this thanks to our AI-driven operations. The AI-driven operations give you an extra pair of hands to operate your network, to really help you getting your network done. Microservices for agility. The largest organization that we have is 250,000 network devices in one organization. We have infinite elasticity, we have infinite flexibility, but also agility. Every week we update our cloud. As my manager, Sudhir, says, Christmas comes every Thursday. Every Thursday we have new feature functions. Some of it are in the background, some of it are in the the graphical interface. Yeah, and that agility, instead of having a huge controller, we dissected that controller into little pieces that gives us a fast track to feature functions as it needed, or bug fixes as needed. Then digital engagement. Also there in our access points, we have a kick-ass location services where we could go down to a meter accuracy, but the response time to that accuracy is less than a second. That is really important, and that goes hand in hand with our microservices. Also there, if you're looking into digitization, location services, wayfinding, all these things, have a look at that. And everything is underpinned by 100% API, open API. You could do amazing things with the infrastructure, with segmenting, with reporting. Feel free to contact me. Also, again, there, contact me or my colleagues. We've built some really nice tools and snippets for you to show how that API works. It is a rock-solid API, backwards compatible. You don't have to worry when we upgrade that things will get broken, because everything we do is based on that open API. Yeah, we're not having any specific dedicated client software there. Everything there we do is open API. That leads us to our Kahoots. Let me see where it is. There you go. So if all is well, let's see, I need to, I get ready to join. Is that, okay, there it is. So the Kahoots is, there it is. This is the, I need to turn off my sound. This is the key we have to build into the Kahoots. And I need to, thank you, Willem. I have my conscience here. I need to put it into full screen. So, waiting for players. So we're waiting for everybody to join in. There is Adriaantje. All right. So everybody's joining. Make sure we recognize you at the end. Why? Because we have some goodies that we want to send to your direction. And if we don't know who won, then we cannot send you anything. We have a couple of hoodies, but the winner of everything, so speed is at the essence with Kahoot, the winner of everything will get an AP sent to you. So let's wait a little bit more. We have 37, 38. I cannot see from here how many are still online. So let's see that we get close to that number before we start the quiz. So we have 240 people online, and we are at 51 to start, 52, 53. All right, 200 online. Yeah, let's wait a little bit longer. So let's give it just one more minute. We are at 60, we're stuck at 60, 62. It's slowing down, 64. I'm going to start the quiz. Yeah, so, oh, okay, everybody's waking up, 70. They just found out that it's an AP the winner is gonna get. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. All right, we're gonna start. So, Kahoot, what's happening? All right, Juniper AI in action. Again, a countdown. I'm also a little bit new to driving the Kahoots. Now, folks, which of the following is not one of the Juniper pillars? Speed is at the essence. Yeah? We kept the answers short. You have 30 seconds, and we'll see what happens. All right, 74 people we had. I think all the answers are there. Let's see. Can I speed this up? 78. 1. All right, so, wow. So 16 people think microservices are not part of the missed pillars. I just did a recap of the microservices, And number 3 was, no, I did a recap of the pillars, and the number 3 was actually microservices. Client insights, that's the number 1. AI-driven operations, that was number 2 of those pillars. So yeah, we had a centralized controller, that was the 1. And it seems like Eve and tuning sound, whoever that is, again, if we don't know who you are, we cannot send you anything. But Steve and tuning sound, thank you. You were the fastest one on this one. So ready, folks? We have our second question. A second question, which of the following is part of measuring a user experience? Is it the 150 client states? Is it only the AX and the access points? Is it access points, SRX and SSR? Or all of them the right answer? So let's see. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so what do we have is 12 people say 150 states. Yes, that's true. However, all of them were part of it. Yeah, it's true that access points, SRX, yes, that's true. EXs, that is true. But if you saw in the demo, all of them are correct answers. So let's see who's there. Tuning sound. Oh, Adriaantje, together with Matthias, is in the leading seat here. We're going to have a challenge if we have a tie. Only one can get an EP. So let's see. All right, next one. 3 out of 4 questions. AI-driven operations, what are they? Are they cost saving? Are they resource saving? Are they time saving? Or all the answers are correct? Yeah, I think we land at 78. Let's wait just a couple of seconds. I know I can skip this, but I just want to make sure if somebody, well, it will be too late anyway, he or she, if you're now going to respond. There you go. So we have, hey, finally, everybody, all the answers are correct. What a surprise. So now it's all about speed. So let's see what is the scoreboard. Ketnet is tied with Adriaantje, that by 1. So this is the last one for the top 3 to get a hoodie, and eventually the top 1 to get an AP. So a good wireless design ensures what? Fast roaming, secure access, support of mission-critical applications, or again, all answers are correct. This is a very difficult quiz. I made it really hard for everyone to participate on this one. We have 77, I think, one person. Oh, one person didn't give up. 78, 9, 80. Wow. Okay, so we have 2 newcomers, if I see or compare it with the previous ones. And let's see what's happening. Again, all answers are correct. Only 4, they said, a good wireless design supports of mission-critical applications. That is true, but a good wireless design makes sure that fast roaming is there, make sure that things are secure, and also make sure that you can support mission-critical applications. So again, here, all answers are correct. That brings us to the podium where Ketnet is number 3, number 2 is Matthias, and number 1 is, ta-da, Adriaantje. Congratulations. And please make sure you leave email or text or God knows what that we can send stuff to you. Congratulations, all of you. Yeah, this was an amazing event. And I really want to thank everybody. Again, I'm going to bring this up here. Don't forget our 5 pillars. Don't forget seeing is believing. Put it in a production. Don't only put it in a lab. Start in a lab to get understanding that all your connectivity works. But from the lab, go to a production. We will turn on the light. All these customers here on the screen and more have their own unique story why they have selected Mist or Juniper Mist. Thank you so much, and I wish you a good rest of the day and a good rest of the week. Oh yeah, sorry, we have the magician. Martin, how could I forget about you?
No worries, no worries. Right, okay, so just a really quick finish up. I'm not going to keep you too long because I know, firstly, Jan, one and all, can you please give Jan a massive round of applause for being an incredible host?
And Martin, sorry, I am your assistant. I have here 6 assistants that were like, the magician, the magician, the magician. And like, oh yeah, the magician.
Indeed. So really quickly, we are going to go through the torn and restored tissue.
Yep.
So in fairness, Jan actually was pretty much on track with how this works earlier.
Oh, really?
Instead of taking one sheet, you are indeed taking 2 pieces of tissue. So if you will grab 2 pieces of tissue right now, and then you're going to screw one of these up into a tight ball. Make that as small as you can make it. Push it nice and tight. Make it nice and small. Now, you kind of subtly tried to pick yours up earlier, Jan. However, the easiest thing to do is to take this screwed up little nugget and put it now behind the other piece, because now you've got it pinched between your thumb and finger, and that is you now set to go to do this trick. Now, also, this is where you're going to need your magic wand, and I have to say, Jan, your magic wand is perfect for this, because you need to have the magic wand hidden somewhere, like in your pocket, and you can condense yours down so it fits in your pocket, or have it nice and long, but you want it somewhere out of sight, so in your pocket, behind your back, just somewhere that's out of their line of sight. Now, because you've got the balled up tissue behind, you can lift up all your fingers and show your hands are empty, and then just start ripping it. Get them to have a piece of tissue as well, and tell them to rip up their tissue, because although their tissue doesn't restore, it just gives you, it makes them physically part of the magic. And you're going to keep on ripping the tissue down into smaller and smaller pieces, each time putting the ripped off piece in front, so the balled up tissue stays at the back, and rip it down until, like I said earlier, it gets to the size of a large postage stamp, or now you know the secret, just a bit bigger than the nugget of balled up tissue. Now, this is where you're going to switch them. As you say, screw the tissue into a ball, and that's it done right there. All this happening is as you bring your hands together, you're going to push and pull the ripped up the tissue into your hand, and then start squeezing the balled up tissue. Now, we want to get rid of this before the end of the trick. But if you've just done this and then drop your hand and come back empty-handed, you must have got rid of something because you didn't bring anything back. So if this is why you've hidden your magic wand, because now, once you've balled up the tissue, you can drop your hand in your pocket or behind your back or in your lap, wherever you're hiding the magic wand, drop the tissue, come back with your magic wand, and now you've given a reason to put your hand out of sight because you brought something back. Now, it's all about building up to the magic moment. So this is why earlier we did the whole blow thing, where I was like blow, 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 raspberry, because that just pads out time between the moment the trick happens, when you get rid of the tissue, and the moment of magic, when this then restores. Then I was like, each and every one of you, unroll your tissue and pull those pieces apart. And I could see on Jan's face for a second, he was like, nah, he's done that in my fingers, I'm going to be impressed. No, obviously it doesn't restore in their hand, but you give them that feeling for a second that it's going to. So when you then go, oh, I forgot the magic wand, tap on your tissue with the magic wand and open it up to show your tissue's then restored. It means you get a better reaction from them because you've come full circle right there. That emotionally raised bar is released on your tissue. So overall, you get a better response. Sometimes though, they do start complaining that their tissue doesn't restore, and you could be like, it's fine, you can have this one as a souvenir. This does take a little bit of practice to do, but if you open the tissue back on your hand, all those creases and folds you make balling it up, if you now bounce that on your hand, all those creases and folds then begin to start morphing themselves and shaping themselves into a nice little origami crane, which you're going to give out to them as a souvenir, which obviously looks a lot more impressive than a crumpled folded piece of tissue.
It doesn't work.
It takes a little bit of practice, that one, yeah. So anyways, well, thank you so much for having me along as part of this amazing event. And yes, once again, Jan, fantastic hosting there as well. So thank you very much for...
Thank you, Martin. This was truly amazing, truly amazing.
Some would say magical.
Yeah, some would say magical. I think it's AI driven from my point. I see here only laughing faces. Unfortunately, I don't see the faces on the other side of the Zoom meeting. But Martin, it was a joy to have you on the show. I look forward to meet you again in a couple of weeks.
Indeed. Take care, one and all. And
all right. Thank you, man. Bye. And for everybody else, thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the week. And I don't think we have any magicians
Imagine
anymore.
a network where connectivity and uptime are the least impressive capabilities. A network where user and application experience takes center stage. An effortless network, enabled by AI-driven insights that avoids problems before they even occur, so you can spend your time moving your business forward. At Juniper, we've pushed beyond traditional network-centric boundaries. We're focused on elevating the experience of running a network and how it delivers real business outcomes. Because at the end of the day, the network should empower the people who use it and the people who operate it. Juniper, driven by experience.